Welcome to Paranormal M, where every story is a step into the dark unknown. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss out on our latest ghostly episodes. Brace yourselves for a chilling experience. I saw a man with no eyes as a kid, and my cat was my witness. Any thoughts on what this could be? So when I was a kid, about 12 to 14, I was being haunted by something in my childhood home. Now, I have a few stories of things happening, but right now I'm particularly interested in figuring out more about a man that I saw. I was 13 or 14 when this happened. For the most part, I was used to weird or creepy things happening in my house, like stuff being moved around or weird noises. It's also important to know that I had a cat, Lyric. Slept in my room with me every night. This night I went to bed like usually. Lyric snuggled up next to me, but I had a very strange dream. In my dream, I woke up in my bed, and my bedroom looked exactly the same as when I fell asleep. But this time there was an old man standing in front of my bedroom door. He was about 6 feet tall, wearing what I would call pioneer clothes. A loose white button-up with cuffed sleeves, brown pants being held up by suspenders, and brown leather shoes. He also had a white beard and white hair pulled into a comb-over. The creepy thing was he had no eyes. He just had black sockets where his eyes should be. Even with him having no eyes, I felt sure that he was watching me. As soon as I saw him, I felt a wave of dread run through me. All I wanted to do was just run. He was blocking my bedroom door, and my bedroom windows were too high off the ground for me to jump. I also had this overwhelming sense that if I did try to run, he would get me. So I convinced myself that this was just a really fucked up dream, and I could just wake myself up from it and it would be over. And so I laid down and eventually woke myself back up. For a second, I was relieved that the ordeal was over. But I look over to my cat Lyric and see that she's shaking in fear. Her fur is puffed up to triple her usual size. Her eyes are huge. She's growling in a very low tone that I've never heard her make before. She's staring at the exact spot that man was standing in my dream. This made me believe that it wasn't a dream, but a window into what was really happening, especially since my cat reacted to his spot he was standing even after I was awake. Safe to say it took a long time for us to go back to sleep. But eventually the feeling of being watched went away and she settled back down next to me. I never saw him again after that, but I've been left with so many questions ever since. Was he the ghost of a man or something pretending to be one? Why did he show up for that instance then never came back? And what's the significance of him having no eyes? Something is downstairs. First off, I've never had anything like this happen before. It was a normal school night. I was just brushing my teeth when I heard the downstairs office door open. The office door is two big glass doors. The doors have lots of friction, so it takes quite a bit of force to open it. And when you do, you hear the glass of the door shake or vibrate. I didn't think anything of it. It was normal for my dad to work a little bit late, entering the office around 10, maybe 10:30. I was getting into bed around 20 minutes later. That's when I hear the door slam. I walk out of my room to the banister. As I did, my mom on the opposite side of the hallway, she immediately asks, "Was that you?" I told her, "I think Dad's downstairs." She said, "No, he's in our bedroom right now sleeping. I checked both my siblings' rooms. They were fast asleep." We both walked downstairs and saw my dog on the other side of the house laying down. I also heard the metal on his collar clinking as he jolted up and the door slammed. There's absolutely nothing. Plus, my dog would have seen whatever it is causing the door to open and slam. They also say dogs can see ghosts, but he didn't seem to react at all. But he did react to the sound. Honestly, I haven't thought much about this, but I do question it time to time. I saw something that wasn't human, but I don't think it was my schizophrenia. So basically, I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia for about a year. In that time, the only symptoms I've had would be auditory hallucinations, and sometimes when I close my eyes, I see flashes of random things. This only happens when I'm in bed at night when I'm trying to sleep. Not yet falling asleep, though. I've also seen, 2 bugs. One pretty giant one crawling on the wall next to my face. But to be fair, each time I had literally just opened my eyes from waking up. It was literally the first thing I saw. So maybe it could just be my body not, being fully awake. I don't know, I'm not a psychiatrist. But none of this is actually my question. You see, my question actually goes back to when I was about 6 or 7. It was late at night and I was sleeping in my room and I'd woken up to go pee. I had a bathroom attached to my room. Now on the wall that my bed was beside also had a door that leads to the living room. So I had to get out of bed and walk past the door, go to the wall that was across from my bed at the door that led to the bathroom. So everything's fine going to the bathroom, but I turn on the lights, handle my business, turn off the lights, head back to my bed. While I'm crossing the area that has my door that leads to the living room, I turn my eye to the door I see. I see this humanoid figure. It's paper white, big pointy teeth formed into a smile with what looked like bullet holes in its head. I remember for sure this next part, and it looked to be bleeding. Not processing what I'd just seen, I turn my head back to look forward at my bed, but just as soon as I do, I process what I'd just seen and immediately turn back to the door and stare at it, scared for my life. But nothing's there. I stare at that door for what seems like forever. I only seen that humanoid figure for a second. I remember it so vividly even this day. I know this sounds like a made-up story, but I promise on my life what happens to me is true. My question to all of you lovely people who took the time to read my poster, here it is. Do you think this could have been some early form of schizophrenia that peeped its ugly head for a split second? I should mention this is the only time before I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia that I had visual or auditory, experiences like this in my childhood. Or do you think this could be something more? Please let me know. Really freaked out after possible encounter. Hey guys, I've lived in my house for over a year. It's a duplex built in the 60s. It's not super old. I'm wondering if my house is haunted after the encounter I had last night, and I would appreciate advice and thoughts because I don't know much about this stuff. Last night at 3:30 a.m., I woke up to my room's door handle turning. My roommate had gone out drinking, and I thought she might have been drunk. I yelled out to her, "Dude, please don't open my door, I'm trying to sleep." I didn't get a response. Then the door opened and shut several times, and the whole time I'm yelling, "Dude, stop opening my door, leave me alone." The door just keeps opening and closing, door handle turning, etc. Then the door opens again and stays open for a solid 2 minutes. The whole time I'm yelling to shut my door and leave me alone and to go away. Then the door closes again and I get the courage to get up and lock it. It was pitch black and I couldn't see anything outside the door. There was no lights on, not even a phone. This morning I tried to talk to my roommate about it and say how it made me really uncomfortable and freaked me out, but she said she passed out at 1 a.m. and wasn't even awake. She said that she didn't leave her room until she woke up in the morning. Also, I definitely didn't imagine it. My boyfriend was also there and saw it happen. Also, I've been hearing doors downstairs open and shut and footsteps downstairs in the middle of the night for the past few nights. But I always dismissed it as maybe it's just the neighbors because, it's a duplex. Please let me know what y'all think. I'm freaked the fuck out and my roommate doesn't seem to help. She's a big believer in the paranormal and it's freaking me out even more. Might have just had an encounter. Last night at around 3:30 a.m., my door handle started turning. I heard banging on the outside of my door. My roommate had gone out drinking, so I thought she was just drunk, so I yelled out to her, "Dude, leave me alone, I'm trying to sleep." But she didn't respond. Then my door opened and slammed shut several times. The whole time I'm yelling for her to leave me alone, but she doesn't respond. This is the same story yet again. Let's see if this is a continuation from the last post. Okay, so they changed a few things in this telling of the story. So this is the same writer, but they're writing a separate post. So the ad-lib to the last story is that one day I woke up and our back door was open, but I just thought we forgot to lock it. Now I'm thinking it might have been a ghost or something. Please let me know what y'all think. That's the only difference in these posts. So, don't say I didn't read story number 5. On to story number 6. This is my "what the fuck was that" experience. When I was around 13, my parents would take my brother to a weekly sports club. He's pretty successful as a young lad, and my parents would go to every tournament Saturdays and Sundays. Some of the events were full-day things, and I'd sometimes stay behind. That's because waiting and walking kind of got boring. Anyway, this particular night, right before I just wasn't really feeling 100%, made the decision not to go with them. I woke up at about 11 a.m., went downstairs, and it was alarmingly cold. Of course, it's silent because nobody's home and we didn't have pets. I sat on the couch for a minute in silence, debating food. That's when I had a feeling like someone was watching me. You know that hair on the back that stands up when you feel like you're not supposed to be somewhere? Weirded out, I decided to go back upstairs. I turned to my left to go through the door, and it felt like something breathes or hisses in my ear really loudly. The wind trailed past me. I flinched so hard thinking it was a bug or something, but there was nothing there. As you can imagine, I was completely frozen in the middle of the room for at least 10 seconds. Could not get my body to move. It's the single most scared I've ever been in my life. There was nobody in the room, but the sound was like right in my ear canal, literally. I remember not being able to leave the room because I was too scared to go past the door. I then realized that there were no windows open. My phone was upstairs the entire time, and I waited in the same spot on the couch until my family came home. I'd never been more relieved in my life. I think I actually cried. My family said I must have been dreaming, but I'm 100% sure that there's nothing that could have been within, reasonable logic, hissed or breathed in my ear in an empty house. I never felt the house was haunted. Always thought it was better to keep my experience to myself. I've never experienced something like this again. I still have no logical explanation. I'm not religious, but it did make me think twice about my belief system. Thing is, it wasn't just the weird breathing. Could have almost gotten over that. It was that feeling before it that I remember the most. The proper bird suddenly going quiet moment. This is my old family house, so I don't live there anymore. I'd love to hear other people's experiences about generally weird, what the hell is that moments. This channel's full of them. Strange TV interruption that no one remembers. I've got no idea if this is something that can really be found, but I saw a TV segment many years ago. It's lingered long in the memory. I'd estimate that it was broadcast perhaps 25, maybe 30 years ago on TV in England. It was part of children's TV, and by this I mean like the usual scheduled TV show that was on, which I recall was a cartoon. It suddenly cut away from the cartoon to what looked like a live group of hooded figures that all had their arms raised in the air. I think they all stood around a wooden structure of some kind. They were making high-pitched screeching. It was in some sort of large indoor area, and it looked organized. One of them took their hood down and pointed at what must have been the camera. Then it went immediately back to the cartoon. The pointing person was a woman with black hair and looked very pale. I haven't forgotten this, and I've tried finding any mention of it over the years to no avail. It was a jarring experience and had nothing to do with the content that it interrupted. I couldn't tell you what channel or the exact time of day other than it was early afternoon. No one else that I asked at the time or since has any memory of it, but I haven't forgotten it. Has anyone else got any recollection of this or any idea what it may have been? I'd say that over the years people have suggested it was part of a commercial break, but I'm almost certain that that isn't the case. It wasn't advertising anything anyway. Furthermore, it was rather chilling and not the sort of thing you'd broadcast at that time of day. Eerie experience. Back in 2022, I lost my best friend to depression. Today I went to our old spot in the woods called Purgatory in Michigan. It was always our favorite hangout place. Parked my car in the clearing, it's super windy and dark. I walk back about 75 meters or so and back off the clearing to the deeper woods. I always keep his funeral remembrance pamphlet inside my wallet always. So I take it out like I always do and I just talk to him. I tell him he's missed and I hope things are better now and I'm sorry for missing his father's funeral. I was out of town and didn't find out till after. I'm reading and talking to him and the trees are knocking and swaying pretty violently, and I say, I wish you could show me that you're doing okay now, and I love you and I miss you very much. Everything just goes completely silent and trees stop swaying, birds go still, and bugs aren't making a single sound. I can just feel something or someone near me. I say I don't have much time to stay, but I'll see you next time. Love you, rest easy, and if I make my way back up the way I came in, I'll get in the driver's seat, decide to hit my vape, 60% battery. Just doesn't hit now, so I put the key in the ignition in the car, not really start running, it's not turning over, but it won't fire. Does this like 3 times, I'd say. I promise I'll come back and talk soon. Immediately, the car fires and I proceed to head home. My car started just fine when I left to go out there, and when I pull in at home, I proceed to start my car 5 times, and it fires every time. I know I got in touch with, well, who I was trying to talk to. This may be eerie, but it made me very happy. This wasn't the first time doing this, but it was the first response. Thank you for showing me that you're still by my side. Rest easy. I had a horrific experience, and now I'm seeing things that I can't explain. I'm a 27-year-old male. I've been hanging around the local library for a while now. I've been in a dark place. It helps to just sit around and read. When a librarian's there, Sammy always gives me books to read. I'm into history, so he oftentimes gives me historical books. Recently, I walked up to him and he told me that he has this book, but I can't tell anybody about it. He really emphasizes the fact I cannot show the book to anyone under any circumstances. Thought this was really weird, but what the hell, I accepted. He asked me to follow him and we go to some sort of storage room. He hands me a book that has no name on the cover. All the cover contains is a small painting of a man and a woman kissing. Upon going home and reading the book, I realized that it's not a literal book, it's a handwritten journal from the 1800s. I was very interested. It was the journal of a man named Hans Eliot. The first few chapters, it essentially just follows his everyday life. At some point, however, Hans faces crippling grief after the woman he was dating, Elizabeth, died. It's vague, but I believe she died of tuberculosis. While in his grief, he discovers a mask. The mask is described as being completely orange with a smile and closed eyes. When he puts it on, he feels all his senses compromised. He suddenly cannot see, smell, hear, or feel anything. While wearing the mask, he sees a dream-like hallucination of himself standing in London, following a voice calling out to him. He follows the voice and encounters a mysterious man who apparently explains to him the concept of other dimensions. He awakens from his trance-like state, finds himself on the floor crying and laughing at the same time. The rest of the journal mainly consists of him documenting his experiences with the mask, as well as featuring poems, sheet music, drawings, and paintings and short stories made by Hans Elliot. I want to get my unusual experiences, or if you have any questions about the journal itself, just ask me. Anyway, I was just very interested. I googled him, found absolutely no record of an artist called Hans Elliot that lived in the 1800s. Totally thought that Sammy had fallen for some sort of misinformation, so I went back to the library. Explained to him what I'd found, and he suddenly smiles and says to come back tomorrow. Skipping to the next day, I returned to the library. Sammy explains that the journal was handed down to him across several generations. He says that Hans is not a historical figure, but one of his ancestors. But then says that he has one thing to show me to get rid of all of my suspicions. We go back to the same dark storage room, and to my amazement, he hands me a clay orange mask with a smile and closed eyes. It looked old and worn out. He tells me to keep it. When I got home, kind of forgot about it. Finally decided to run an experiment with the mask. I grabbed my acoustic guitar, put my phone on record, and propped it up to where it were facing me. Then I slowly slipped the mask onto my face. Started to feel my surroundings disappear. It was such a strange experience. It's like being dead, but still somewhat being alive. Other than being able to think, all my senses just vanished. It's like I was nowhere. I was just existing. I can barely remember anything after that. My phone ran out of storage and stopped recording. I woke up to find myself curled up on the floor crying. It was literal. I could bring myself to watch a video on my phone. I finally watched that video. I saw myself staring blankly at a wall for about 5 minutes, not moving a muscle. Then I lightly put my fingers in the frets of the guitar and start strumming it. I start singing. I can barely make out the words, and I can make out me saying Hans, oh Hans, several times. I can hear myself screaming the name Elizabeth at one point, and then I drop the guitar on the floor, start wailing and screaming. I can't remember any of it. I also noticed things. I heard the sound of footsteps even though I lived alone. I heard my light switches clicking on and off. I heard someone speaking, but I can't make out the words. I perfectly understand what the mask is, however. It's a map to other dimensions. I swear it is. It acts as a doorway between universes. Ever since I put the mask on, I've been seeing things. I've seen figures standing in the doorway of my bedroom. I've seen inhuman creatures. I've had very unusual dreams. I've heard people singing, and I've seen a child version of myself in the backyard playing with his friends. They don't even acknowledge me. I've seen strange lights, and most disturbingly, I've seen a man staring at me wearing a suit. Black hair, wears the same orange mask. Once he took it off, and I took in every feature of his face. It was burned into my brain. Once Salmon gave me 2 pictures of him. One was from behind, and another was him wearing the mask. I swear to God, I took in his hair and his entire face. I don't care if I couldn't see his entire face. The man in the photograph is the same guy I saw in my hallucination. My animal-loving asshole of a grandpa spends more time with me in death than he did in life. So I'll start with the fact that I was never close with my grandpa. He didn't really care to be involved much. I don't know if he ever even remembered my name. I was just the little one. He sure did love animals, though. Just not people. I mean, I get it. In the last years of his life, he fell and broke his hip. He ended up moving into my mom's house, a duplex. That's while I was at college and he died there. I moved back home after school into the apartment that he lived in. The first experience I had was finding a lamp on that he used all the time, but it was unplugged. I turned it off and I approached it. And okay, maybe a weird surge of energy from, but was already in the lamp. I don't know. Don't ask me, I'm not an electrician. Next time, when my dog randomly wakes up and I'm staring at my makeup holder that spins. It's heavy, impossible to spin without a good push. I hear it before I see it, but when I look at spinning. I also have a completely redone, in the past year, bedroom, with all new electrical. The new light is flickering. I quietly ask Grandpa if he can not hang out in my room because I don't feel comfortable being naked in there with him in there. And nothing's happened in my room again after that. Now to the weirdest two that were both experienced by me and another person. My mom was scolding my dog for pooping on the floor. My girl was 2 weeks out from giving birth. So give the poor pregnant lady a break. Yeah. I'm standing there talking back to my mom and a gargoyle sculpture jumps off the wall, flies over my dog and my mom and lands on my mom's feet. It absolutely did not fall off the wall. It flew straight ahead until it hit my mom. My dog casually looked at the gargoyle, looked at my mom, strutted out of the room. Side note, before my girl went into labor, she goes to pretty much a doggy midwife for it. I asked my grandpa to please take care of her since I know he doesn't care about me but loves my dog. I'd like to think that he was with her during it. And finally, the worst invasion of privacy was when I was taking a shit with the other dog in the bathroom. My boyfriend was here, so I had the door closed, to save him from the nose trauma. But the dog, well, he demanded to join me. At some point it even got too overwhelming for him. So I asked my dog if he wanted to leave. He looks at me, he looks up at the door handle, the door is pulled open. This door swings all the way open unless he catch it. Just enough for him to leave and stopped. It didn't continue swinging like it would have if it were pushed. My boy looks at someone on the other side of the door and walks out. My boyfriend was fully in the other room when this happened because I immediately shouted for him and I heard him rustling. So, dear Grandpa, thanks for being emotional support for my animals. I'm sure they appreciate it. I wish he would have treated me as well in life as you've treated my dogs in your afterlife. I still like him. Something keeps chapping at my back door, but there's never anyone there. For some backstory, the back door used to open into a sealed catio with my kitties and they'd go out and play there. Catio. We recently took that away because we were going to build a new, bigger one. We've renovated our library so it can open out into a massive catio between the library balcony and the raised part of the garden. So now the back door is pretty much usable again. Because it was inaccessible till now, we thought the phantom chopping was trying to tell us that the door was unlocked. Excuse me, chapping. So we locked it and stopped for a bit. I was just downstairs unloading the dishwasher in the utility room where said back door is located, and it chapped, loudly and forcefully 5 times. My exact words were, "Nope, fuck that." Came back up the stairs to de-stress. It's 2 a.m. here, where I live, but not anybody playing a prank. I just have a very long drive and you'd hear them. Plus, there'd be no way they could run past without my kitchen window and look right into the driveway practically. You'd see them. And by the way, this has happened to us in broad daylight before too. Another addition about this, because I investigated the letterbox last time this happened. The indoor flap of the letterbox doesn't chap properly. It's very old. If you open it, the flap will stick up and stay there, and it'll only close very slowly. You'd have to force it down with some force to make it close, never mind chap it rapidly. The outer has to be lifted, and it's quite heavy. I tried moving it a few times just to make it make the sound that I heard. You'd have to put some degree of force behind it, and where the door is located is covered by an overhang from the conservatory, which is why we built a catio there. It's not the wind, and the wind wouldn't even be strong enough to do this. Plus, it's happened 3 times on days with next to no wind. As of this moment, I have no explanation, but I think the sudden agitation of the animal spirits that I've seen and heard in the house has something to do with it. Time for some house history. I won't share the name of the house, as giving out my home address on Reddit sounds like a stupid thing to do, but I live in Scotland and the house is over 160 years old. It's seen a long history of owners, including some of the, so-called renowned. I've never heard bad history about it. No deaths, no foul play, anything like that. This phantom chapping at the back door has been going on for a good few weeks now. I know not to let it in, but it's still very unnerving. It was so insistent this time. Last time it did this, it was 3 chaps, and this time it was like it was urgent. This is the second time it's happened when it specifically was me being in the utility room. Oh, and last time it was during the day, and the door had stained glass so you can see if somebody's on the other side messing around, and there wasn't anyone over there. Anyway, I don't have any explanation right now. I've tried debunking it myself, but can't figure it out. Just thought it was a neat experience to share, and this really helped calm my nerves a bit. It really rattled me. I had sleep paralysis last night for the first time in years. For background, I'm in my first year at uni. I live on campus in a dorm with my best friend from back home, 6 other roommates whom I don't really know otherwise and I don't really converse with. Our door to our room can only be electrically unlocked from the outside with our phones, as we have a key card connected to our Apple Wallet. This pretty much makes it nearly impossible for anybody, even other roommates, to get in, unless they took one of, our phones. I used to have sleep paralysis and night terrors often as a child, but haven't experienced it lately, like years. I had just returned home from a friend's house, and I fell asleep almost immediately. I had sporadic sleep, waking up every so often to check the time and look at my phone for a few minutes. This is a normal occurrence for me. However, last night was abnormal, to say the least. I woke up, checked my phone to see the time, around 3:30. I went promptly back to sleep. I awoke again after what seemed like a few minutes later to the sound of my door unlocking. My initial thought was that my roommate must have gotten up to use the bathroom. It couldn't have been the case since I had just seen him sleeping a few minutes prior when I checked my phone. My heart dropped as I knew my roommate was in bed dead asleep. I sleep with the back to my door, so I could only hear the door slowly creaking open. I was frozen. Maybe only in fear, maybe in a fit of sleep paralysis. I heard whatever opened my door slowly close it. I heard the electronic lock click back shut. I didn't hear any footsteps leading to my bedside, but I felt a hand firmly grasp my side to the point where it was painful. It felt like nails were digging into my skin. Then I felt and heard its breathing on the back of my neck and into my ear. I somehow found the courage to move, which makes me skeptical that this wasn't sleep paralysis. My fight or flight senses kicked in, and I quickly sprung up, ready to throw a punch at whatever's in the room. Nothing was there. I glanced around the room to see my closet door slowly closing. I was absolutely freaked out. I did not go back to sleep. I scrolled my phone until morning. And the thing that makes me the most uneasy is the feeling I got after I sprung up. It felt like whatever's next to me wasn't expecting me to do anything. I could feel its surprise and somewhat even unease. These were strong feelings that I received immediately, not just a guess or my mind playing tricks on me. This could have just been a very vivid dream or hallucination because I do listen to horror stories every night before bed. And that was in my mind at the time, but something about the pain that I felt and the breathing makes me feel it wasn't a hallucination. I'd like to tell myself it was just sleep paralysis, but being able to move so suddenly and the fact that I had just fallen back asleep after waking up makes me think it couldn't have been. After inspection, I don't have any bruises on my body where the thing placed its hand. It still freaks me out. I love horror and paranormal, but I don't fuck with demons as a religious person. This whole encounter only lasted a few minutes. It was very quick, but it genuinely fucked with me. Looking for advice and reassurance. I've always been very mildly sensitive. Never really seen anything, never done anything that could potentially invite negative things into my life, i.e. a Ouija. Just sensing people around until this week. I feel like I have family around me. Often catch things out of the corner of my eye, like a movement or something or someone. When my child was first born, there was a lot of sudden perfume smells, which my husband and my mother-in-law confirmed is the same perfume as my husband's nan-nan. He was close to. Our child is named after my husband's grandfather, the husband of aforementioned nan-nan. My child has just turned 2, almost a week ago. Currently pregnant again, and activity seems to have ramped up this week. It all started last night. I was in bed and turned over to see a gentleman stood at the side of my husband. First time I've ever experienced anything like this. It made me jump, I blinked and it disappeared. It wasn't like I could see straight through it. It was solid and I could only see the outfit. No faces. My dog let a few barks in the room with us and I assumed that she had seen it too. Again, it only scared me as I'd never seen something that I attribute to be a ghost before. It didn't feel menacing. The only feeling that it had was, well, I wasn't meant to see it. Our room sits directly to the side of the child's, as connecting walls. I could hear movement in their bedroom straight after seeing this figure, like they maybe were awake and active. However, my child isn't like a quiet play child. When they play, they're very vocal. So upon hearing this, I get up to go to the toilet and check in on them, fast asleep. While I'm on the toilet, left the bathroom door open by the way, out of the corner of my eye I catch something walk through the wall of my toddler's bedroom into the landing. I think my brain is just imagining things now. I've seen this figure. It's 2:30 a.m. and I head back to bed thinking nothing more of it. But on the edges I've never experienced or seen something like the figure ever before. Today I speak to my mom, who's also mildly sensitive, to fill her in on the night antics. She lives next door, and she does share walls. Her bedroom is directly adjacent to my child's room. Often hears them playing or singing first thing in the morning. She had been on holiday and arrived back early hours around 2:15 a.m. She proceeds to tell me that she could be, hearing talking in my toddler's room. She had assumed I'd left a TV on or something. I hadn't. Then tonight I awake at 2:50 a.m., 45 minutes ago, to the sound of a plastic toy being played with. Almost like a piece of toy was hitting itself, such as a loose toy car door rattling if shaken. So I get up again to go to the toilet. 25 weeks pregnant, constantly needing the toilet anyway. Check in on my toddler, expecting to see them playing. Nope. Absolutely bang asleep. They don't have many toys in their room, maybe 4 or 5. 2 of those are soft toy plushies. The activity seems to have taken a jump again. Doesn't scare me as much. Well, at least I know I have a loving family around. But from my side and my husband's side, I guess. But I'm just confused why it's all of a sudden taken a jump to more notable activity, not just seeing things out of the corner of my eye. I think enough people below know the reason for that. A balloon played peekaboo with me, and I don't know how. I can't get what happened to me recently out of my head. It was such an odd experience. I was heading over to my mom's house before I left for college a couple of weeks ago. Recently, we'd celebrated my stepfather's birthday. My mom got him 2 balloons. Our house has 3 floors. The first having very high ceilings, which is important. Those balloons accidentally floated up to the ceiling. That's why my mom was cutting the strings down after the party. They'd both been in the corner of the high ceiling since. I walked into the house, and I was the only one there since both my parents were at work. I went into the kitchen and noted for sure that the balloons were still up in the corner on the opposite side of the area. I was curious why they hadn't tried to take them down yet. After that, I went upstairs and went to my room past my bathroom, which had a door closed. Not 20 minutes go by and I leave my room to go to the bathroom, and as I open the bathroom door, I sort of stand in shock. Hovering over the bathroom sink where the mirror is one of the balloons floating there in the darkness of the bathroom. I did my business, and the airflow of me moving made the balloon creep toward me. It scared me a little bit. But then I took it out swiftly. I popped it, sucked out the helium for a little bit of a laugh. However, I just cannot get the description out of my mind. I'm not really the type to get freaked out by things that seem unexplainable, but what I couldn't wrap around my brain is how it got there. I tried to deduce how it could have gotten in the bathroom behind a firmly closed door in under 20 minutes, but it just doesn't make sense. My parents have 3 indoor cats who like to play with string. There is a window somewhat high enough that one of the cats could have dragged the balloon down upstairs, but there's absolutely no way they could have done this without jumping down and making a loud noise. My bedroom door was open. The string was also cut short, so they'd seriously fall really hard if they attempted to do this. Another thought that came to my mind was maybe this balloon just floated its way upstairs into the bathroom via airflow. Then one of the cats closed the door. But I also had to rule that out because none of my cats were near the bathroom. I could see pretty much directly outside my room. I ran downstairs, and sure enough, the once 2 balloons were now 1 floating up high in the ceiling. Nobody else was home, the door was already shut. The cats were nowhere near the balloons or the bathroom. So, what the hell? I'd never experienced this type of thing before in that house. But afterwards I've had really terrible luck all at once, and I'm currently sick as a dog. Told my mom about it when she came home during dinner, and she was really confused and creeped out. Spent the next few hours thinking of how it could have happened and bounced ideas off of each other. We're at a loss. I'd like to define myself as somebody who believes in the paranormal but actively avoids it since I want no business with anything. I'm just wondering, is there any sort of explanation for this? It's like an itch I can't scratch in my brain. I hate those. Demon tormented me and my wife. One night, about a month ago, 3 to 4 weeks, sleeping in my bed, got woken up by a presence at the foot of my bed. Seemed like a monk, or so I believed. I couldn't see the eyes, but I could see the robes black. I woke up in a cold sweat. I was fearing for my life. No, not fear. It was utter horror, complete dread. I got up on my elbows and I wasn't asleep. I looked at it, blinked 2, 3, 4 times, and it was gone. It was in the middle of the night at around 2 or 3 a.m. Chalked it up to me being tired and exhausted. Bit of background on me. I became a bit more religious a couple of years back. I always used to wear a crossfit after I always had prayed. I always used to wear a cross after and always had prayed. Not from books as some do, but from the heart. I would thank my God and I would beg him for forgiveness. I would ask him to make me a better person. No money, no women, no cars. Just a better person and less sins. Anyway, I just renovated my upper floor in my house, which is me and my wife's apartment, so to say. We live with my parents and grandparents. Now, I tossed it into my imagination, thought I was exhausted, tired, and imagining things, but anyway, thought I should get some sort of sanctified objects inside the room. A cross, my prayer beads, got my cross back onto my neck, and been like that ever since. On one night, my wife said she used to see a man in her doorway. I wouldn't see him, but I would feel that presence to what I can say was not a man. That's when I called my spiritual father, which is a priest, to help us. I would have restless nights. My wife would also constantly wake up, and it clicked inside my head that I wasn't being tired. So we called a priest. He blessed the whole upper floor, and now everything's calm, peaceful, and I can rest. I'm at peace. Whatever it was, I believe it to have been a demon. It's now gone, and I'm constantly back to praying and blessing my little apartment, as my religious indicates. So to say. So to say. Can someone tell me what that was? This story is based in Ireland, back in the early 2010s. I moved out from home for college, and I moved into a large 3-story terraced house in the center of the city. I lived with 5 other girls. They usually used to go back to their families home on the weekends. I was often left completely alone at the weekends, and I dreaded it. Being alone didn't bother me, but the problem was I wasn't completely alone. Nothing unusual happened for the first few weeks when I'd moved into the house. Well, at least that I noticed. I loved my new room. It was spacious, had a French door with heavy velvet curtains that I draped on either side of it. I had a double bed that was pushed against the right side of the wall in my bedroom, so only the side of the bed was sort of open to the room, if you can picture that. My room was on the 3rd floor of the house, and the only room to have a balcony. The balcony faced towards the courtyard of sorts. There were no other balconies or roofs near my balcony, so nobody could access it unless they were in my room, which made me feel safe. Around mid-October, I'd been living in the house for a few weeks now. I was comfortable. I knew the house next door that was connected to the right side of my bedroom wall was vacant. I started to hear scraping from inside the wall. I put it down to there being rats or mice next door. The houses were very old and were close to a river too, so at least it made sense. This scraping sound would go on for ages at night and the first thing in the morning. It bothered me so much I tried to record it, but my phone never even really picked it up. How normal, right? I used to sleep in my bed facing the wall, so there was technically space for another person beside me. One night I woke up abruptly after being punched in the shoulder hard. I got such a fright that it didn't register what had happened. I turned on the light on the phone because it's the only one that I had close to me and started shining it into the room. No one was there. I always kept my bedroom door locked with a sliding bolt from the inside because there's always people on in the room in the house, and sometimes my housemates had friends over too. It would be impossible for somebody to get in. Thought that I had imagined it and fell back asleep after a few minutes. The next and the same thing happened. Well, when I woke up, turned my flashlight on, looked around my room, and no one or nothing was there. Tried to go back to sleep, and as I turned, I tried to look back into my room, and it happened, and still awake. I got punched in the back as I was awake. I felt it as clear as day. I lay paralyzed with fear in the bed. It was then that I felt the icy cold of the bedroom. Not the usual winter cold that you would feel in the room when it gets a little chilly. This was ice cold where you could see your breath. I mustered every ounce of courage I had in me to turn back around with the flashlight and check the room corner to corner. Nothing was there. Got up, turned the light on, slept with the light on for the rest of the night too. Same thing the next morning. The scratching continued on the wall next to my bed. I met one of my roommates who stayed in the bedroom across the hall from me coming out of her room. We chatted and walked together downstairs to get some breakfast. At this point, I had told no one what was happening to me because I was so scared they would think I was either lying or a complete freak. I really wanted to make friends with the girls that I lived with. The roommate was visibly spooked as she went about her business in the kitchen. I asked if she was okay, and she told me what happened, laughing to herself as if we both think she had gone mad. She said that last night she was wide awake in bed reading a book when her phone started moving by itself up and down on a shelf in her bedroom. She said it wasn't vibrating that caused it to move. It was being dragged. She proceeded to tell me that she had been having sleep paralysis nightmares since she moved in to where the old hag was sitting in the corner of her room and slowly crawling onto her legs and upper body so she couldn't move. this was happening to her every night. I decided to share with her what was happening to me too. We both silently accepted the reality of our situations and decided not to tell the other girl because I didn't want to freak them out. Surely they would tell us anything was happening to them too. That night I came up with a plan. A plan to line the left side of my bed with clothes as a barrier, so nothing could reach me. In my head, this made sense, but yeah, absolutely did not work. Same thing happened again. I was punched in the shoulder, and the more I tried to ignore it, the harder it got. I had a mark on my shoulder from the punch. I repeated the same thing happened again, where I used my phone's flashlight to check out my room before turning on the light to go. The next night I decided to sleep on my back. I woke up at 3 or 4 in the morning. My balcony door is wide open. The cold November rain coming into my room. My balcony was locked with a key from the inside. It was now wide open. I leapt out of the bed to close the door, and I got saturated in the process. Now I was mad. Scaring me is one thing, but attempting to give me pneumonia is another. This happened a few more nights in a row, too. I made sure to check the door was locked before going to bed. Went as far as to put the key under my pillow as I slept. Didn't make a difference. As the weeks went on, I started to experience the extreme sleep paralysis. Can't tell you if it was from the continuous nights of interrupted sleep, or something otherworldly, but it was awful. My sleep paralysis was different from my roommates. I would be wide awake looking around my room, body paralyzed to a black mist lingering but never getting close to me. As the year neared December, I felt relief that I would be going home to my family for a few weeks for Christmas. On one of the last nights before Christmas break, I lay in bed watching a TV show on my laptop. It was still not late, really, only around 8. I started to hear thundering footsteps on the stairs outside my bedroom. Thinking it was my housemates, I popped my head out to check. No one was there. Went across the hall to the other bedrooms and asked if they heard it and if it had been them. They said they hadn't even heard it. Told the housemate who was having similar experiences that I'd text them again if it had happened. I was not back in my room 2 minutes when there it was again. It was coming from the stairs in front of my bedroom from within the house. I texted my housemate and she didn't hear a thing. I knew that it was in for tonight. I was in for it. This was all happening with every light in the house turned on. I was too afraid to walk around in the dark, pretty understandably. Tried to relax back into watching my TV show when the heavy velvet curtains that were pulled closed across my balcony door started to gently rock. There were no windows open in the house for a breeze to be passing through. I texted my housemates and told her what was happening. She decided to sleep in my bedroom for the night. We fall asleep at around 10 p.m. with the lights off. Again, as predicted, nearing 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, we both woke up because the bedroom light had been turned on. She went back to her own room and left me to sleep alone in my room for the rest of the morning. I didn't turn off the light and I kept it on and hoped sleep would find me. But it never did. I stayed awake the entire night and it was so stressing. Gave myself a migraine. Skipped college the next day because I had zero energy. When I left for a few weeks over Christmas, I felt extreme relief. Weirdly enough, nothing happened when I returned after Christmas. I still cannot explain anything that happened or what it even could have been. Opened my eyes to everything spooky. When I was moving out toward the end of the college year, I brought up everything really that I experienced to my housemates. Turns out one of them staying in the room on the second floor saw a full body apparition of a lady standing at the end of her bed. Another had a guest stay over who saw another full body apparition of a man walking in circles on the second floor hallway. Didn't realize it was a ghost, tried to have a conversation with it. Funny in hindsight, but not funny at the time. I always had a feeling of being chased anytime I went up the stairs, but it's always resulting in me absolutely sprinting every time, as if my bedroom that I was sprinting to was any safer. I've since found out that I'm an empath. I don't know if this makes a difference, but I've had plenty of creepy experiences since. An experience from my teenage years. I'm going to simplify a bit to give you an idea of a timeline and focus on the actual events that took place. Everything is in order, so I don't remember exact dates or times. The experience begins on family vacation. I'm in our camper alone on the couch. I hear 3 distinct knocks, but think nothing of it. That evening, everyone's asleep. I hear the same exact knocks in the same general area. The couch is also a pull-out bed. This freaks me out a bit. The following morning, we're headed home from the beach. When we arrive home, I decide to take a shower. During my shower, I hear the same exact knocks, and under a breath and a whisper, I say, "Do it again." That's immediately followed by 3 very rapid knocks. From this point on, I'm totally freaked. Every day becomes a mental battle, and at one point even had to bring my younger brother in from the room to sleep with me. I'm convinced that some of the following interactions could have been caused by the stress my brain was put through. I often heard the same 3 knocks in various locations. My neighborhood pool and my best friend's house. Tried my best to always surround myself with others and even enjoyed the comfort of being at school. This is very traumatic for me. After a sleepover at my friend's house, I was picked up by my dad. As we're driving through the neighborhood, I look out to the right side of my window. I see a small female figure in a white dress. The figure is still on the sidewalk in front of the house, with their head down and their hair draped over. This was a Sunday, so it could have been a girl ready to go to church. Not sure if this is in order, by the way. I often would experience things at my grandparents' house, mostly lights turning on and off by themselves. One day when I was sleeping over and the radio in the room turned on by itself, I have no explanation. All my experiences ceased once I moved on from the house that me and my family were staying in. I felt relief, but had also matured in my age. After this, I had hardened myself to the unknown and developed a response to anything unknown that I'd experienced. In the new house, over the course of 2 years, I'd experienced weird things. Again, though, I was hardened. Experienced my pillows and blankets being stuffed under my sheets and random white crumbs spread evenly throughout my bed. No explanation. Toast. The missing doll. My cousins Julia, Sarah, and Spencer had some sort of really large toy doll. I don't know how large it was because I was too young to even remember seeing it before. Well, you'll find out. Anyways, my cousin, who was the youngest of my 3 cousins, Spencer, was irrationally afraid of the doll. So my other cousins would always use that as pranking material. They'd move it when he wasn't looking to freak him out. They'd put it in the dark rooms that they knew Spencer would go into, often his room. They'd always know that they got him because he'd start screaming. One day on some family gathering, my cousins Julia and Sarah decided to sneak and creep a doll into my grandma's house without Spencer knowing that they had it. That way, he would absolutely not be expecting to see the doll there. Well, they went into the bathroom. They sat the doll in the toilet and turned the lights off. The toy doll was apparently big enough to easily sit on the toilet. Later that night, they were all having dinner at the kitchen table. Spencer asked to excuse himself for dinner. My other cousin would hold his laughter while they watched him walk out of the kitchen and down the hall. They waited for a scream. Well, they kept waiting. Several minutes go by. Spencer walks back. Everyone was confused. "Do you see anything in there?" Julia and Sarah asked. Spencer was confused by the question. "No," he responded. Julia and Sarah go back to the bathroom to find the doll missing. The doll hasn't been seen in like 15 years. Nobody knows what happened to it. There's no window in the bathroom, and the doll is apparently way too big to get flushed down the toilet. Man in black with glowing eyes and sunglasses. As an overnight Uber driver, I've seen my share of paranormal entities over the last few years. Nothing tops what I witnessed yesterday, though. I was driving around the Italian market area in South Philly. I had to make a turn down a street. Old horse and buggy type of street, can hardly fit a vehicle down it. Not much vehicle traffic at all, if ever, especially around this morning hour. I slowly and cautiously make my way down the street. Suddenly notice at the corner of my eye a person standing on the sidewalk. He's standing on the very edge of the curb, almost in the street, but not quite. I slow my vehicle down to a crawl and I can't help but look at this person. It's 3 a.m., pitch black outside, and this man is standing by himself, completely rigid and undisturbed. Again, I'm almost fixated on him because everything just felt so off. As my car moves closer, I notice he's wearing all black. An old-fashioned black suit. Extremely skinny. Most frightening of all, his eyes were glowing white, almost like he had a 40-watt bulb in each eye. He then pulls sunglasses down over his eyes. My first thought was, what the fuck was that? Why were his eyes glowing? Why did he have sunglasses with him when it's 3 a.m. and pitch dark? Was that person even human? Cue the shivers and chills that came over my entire body. I look in my rearview mirror and the man was nowhere in sight. I've been hearing something that sounds like a dog for over 4 years. In January to February in 2020, around 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., I was on my school laptop watching a video and I started hearing something beyond unsettling. From my room, I could hear the sound of heavy paw steps coming from the kitchen. Some god-awful screaming sounds that sounds like dogs in pain just slowly creeping around my kitchen and dining room area for 15 minutes. Doing nothing but screaming. Now I have dogs, but I could tell from the sound of the paw steps that this wasn't one of mine. They sounded like they belonged to a way bigger dog than one of my Chihuahua or Pomeranian mixes. I would say around the size of a German Shepherd, but that's just a guess. All throughout 2020 and 2021, I would hear it walking through my house at night every so often. It wouldn't show up at any certain time, but usually it'd be around 11 p.m. to 5 a.m., which is one of the reasons for a while I thought it could have just been me being half asleep or something. Around the end of 2021, I moved states. I assumed I wouldn't have to deal with whatever the thing was anymore. And for a while, I was right. For around a year, I didn't hear it at all. I would have weird and uncomfortable experiences, like my dog in my room randomly getting up to growl at my door. Nothing really besides that until recently. I heard the same thing again, what I believed to be the same creature in my new house walking around downstairs and making whimpering noises. The only notable thing was it wasn't downright screaming like it was before. I genuinely don't know what to do. Every time I hear this thing, I get this horrible feeling of dread, and I don't even know what it is besides that it sounds like the walls, like all of them are shaking. Sounds like it's walking on all fours and it has paws. Sounds like way bigger than a dog. Any sort of advice or input on what this could be and what to do would be highly appreciated. My sister and I both saw the same white thing go up the stairs when we were younger. I think I must have been around 9 years old. My sister was 6. My parents were watching TV downstairs. We were walking up the stairs to go get ready for bed. It was dark outside and inside as well. We had a light switch on the first floor. I was walking in front and was already in the hallway on the first floor, and my sister was still walking up the stairs. In reach of the light switch, and like 2 seconds before I turned the lights on, I saw it. It was gone as soon as I turned the lights on. My sister said she saw it go beside her up the stairs. I saw it go from the hallway on the first floor right up the stairs to the second floor, to the attic in my bedroom. It went super quick and was gone as soon as I turned the light on. but we both saw it and were spooked. We ran downstairs and said it to our parents, and they dismissed it. Said it was probably our cat, who was white as well. She was downstairs, so couldn't have been her. What we saw was white and low to the ground. I think about the size of a basketball. It was round, but because it moved so quickly, the shape became longer. It didn't look solid, kind of like white smoke and semi-see-through. We were able to see it in the dark, so it was some kind of white light. No face, arms, hair, or anything human to make it look like a person or anything. Just a white thing moving super quickly up the stairs. Never saw anything like it after that. My sister thinks it was right around the time that her grandfather died, but I can't remember it clearly. What was that? Sweet dreams. See ya.